Hey guys, day number 51 of 90, and tonight I'm just thinking about, what have you given up ever losing weight? I mean, I just wonder about that. I talk to so many men that are interested in my program, applying for it, and so many of them, a lot of people are fit, but many of them just aren't at that point where they're at the point where they have lost all the hope. Really. And I recognize that a lot of times by, the coping mechanisms that we use. And, when a man tells me that's over 200 pounds overweight, that it's really not that bad. It's really not something that's that big of an issue. And, it's that kind of thought process that just leads them to keep on going down the road. And I think it's rooted so much of the time in just not believing that there's any way that they can get out of obesity. And when you look at all the different situations that aren't even related to health. I mean, the health is obviously job one. Get your health back. Get to your ideal weight, because the runway on being 100, 200, 300 pounds overweight is just not very long. I mean, statistically, I'm not a scientist or a doctor. I'm just a guy that was morbidly obese that lost a bunch of weight and have kept it off. And I'll speak to that in a minute. But I'll just say to you guys, I know how you feel. I mean, when I was in 2017, when I stepped on the scale at 304 pounds, and I tell this story every night because people ask, what's different about you? I say, I understand you. I know exactly where you are. And they say, do you? And then we'll start talking. They say, oh my God, you do know what's going through my head. I'm not saying that I'm just like all the guys out there that are over 100 pounds overweight, but I've experienced a lot of it. And when I stepped on the scale in 2017 and saw 304 pounds, I'm like, oh my God. It was scary. It was one of those moments where if it had been 299, I would have just kept up with my story. The story that I was telling myself, that one day I'll get the weight off, one day I'll do this, when really deep down inside, I just didn't think there was even any hope. But when I stood on those scales, I realized at age 55, my odds of living another 5 or 10 years were almost zero. I mean, people die every day of myriad of obesity-related illnesses. I had not been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes yet. I had not been diagnosed with heart disease yet. I had not been diagnosed with many of the illnesses around obesity that end up killing people, especially men. But when I stood on the scales, I realized that I had a chance. That really it was always up to me. It wasn't up to a particular diet. Are there great diets out there? Absolutely. Fantastic diets. Pick one. And so but do they really work? Well, no. I mean, if they did, would the industry be growing like crazy, leaps and bounds, and the waist size of America be growing at the same time? That doesn't make sense. If the solution is getting bigger and the problem's getting bigger at the same time, then come on. The solution's not really the solution. So I had to rethink the whole process for me. And some of it happened to me, some of it happened for me, and some of it happened because I was intentional. But when I went down that path, I committed to publicly losing 129 pounds over 265 days, and I hit that goal 5 days early. And it's, and I don't say any of this to boast to you guys. I say it to you to give you hope. I was the worst of the worst. I promise you. You ask my wife, we'd go out to dinner. I'd want to stop and get another dinner. It's like, is this second supper? Kind of like on Lord of the Rings, those guys. I can relate to that. It was sneaking and eating food. It was, my wife, wanting me to look better, but not wanting to nag me, and, buying size 44 pants that were just like skin tight. I couldn't wear them. So I wore the 46s that had the elastic waistbands that stretched to 48 so I could keep some semblance of my ego and not be a 48. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? I mean, 46 with elastic waistband. And I don't say this to shame anybody. I'm laughing at me because I keep a pair of those pants, by the way, not so I'll ever get back in them, just to remind me that, oh my God, that's where I was. And I don't say this because again, I was the worst of the worst. So I don't say any of this to embarrass any of you guys or to shame any of y'all. I mean, but at the end of the day, I want you to realize it is possible. And it is possible to get into 34 skinny jeans, which I had to borrow from my son who was 18 at the time, because all my pants were so big and I needed a pair of jeans, and I was like, holy smokes. And it's nice to walk into a business meeting and to not be embarrassed, to not be that person that's that morbidly obese person that people look at. And you felt this. If you're over 100 pounds overweight, if you haven't felt it, you're not paying attention. People look at you differently, especially a man. They look at you differently, and they realize, and they say to themselves, I wonder if that guy can be trusted. Because at the end of the day, if you have told yourself you were going to lose weight over and over and committed to losing weight and not done it, then you have been dishonest with yourself. I lied to myself for decades. That's all it was. And I think that's one of the reasons so many men that I talk to who are obese, that their weight is holding them back, just like it was me. Because I hadn't been authentic with myself. I had not told myself the truth and gotten my weight off. And was it easy? No. Was it simple? Yes. It's extremely simple. Some of the men that are going through my program right now, I mean, they're rock stars. It's fun to watch. I mean, I learn from them. I see them applying some simple principles that they just hadn't thought of because they hadn't walked through that wilderness of obesity yet. And they start losing weight, and they start getting momentum in other areas of their life, and people in their family start looking at them different. They start talking to them differently. Maybe they've still got another 100 or 150 pounds to go, but life changes, and it affects other areas of your life. And if you don't believe this, you're not paying attention. I'm positive. People look at you differently when you're morbidly obese. You are discriminated against because you're fat. I was. And whether people mean to or not, they look at you and they say, that guy, there's something wrong why he can't get that under control. Just like they would look at an alcoholic and say, that guy hasn't faced his problem. And so, we carry our weight around where everybody can see it. And that was the thing that dawned on me. I didn't like having my picture taken, but one of the triggering moments was about a week after I had that 304-pound scale reading. I saw a picture of myself that had been taken. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't look like I was 304 pounds. I looked like I was 500 pounds. And it blew me away, and it changed everything. So if you don't believe that you can do it, I would say that's where the problem is really going on. It's not, do you have to change your diet? Of course you do. You got to change your diet. You cannot continue doing what you're doing and expect to get a different result, just like I talked about last night. The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But when you realize that it can be done, and then the sky starts parting, the clouds start opening up, and you realize that you probably gained back, as you lost the weight, you gained back life. And I'm not just talking about years of your life, I'm talking about life right here, just like Jesus talked about life to the full. And the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and it's amazing how he can do it with an extra few bites of food and destroy your life. So look around you, look around the people that you love, and if you're kidding yourself and believing that this obesity is not a big deal to you and that you can handle it and you haven't handled it, ask yourself how it's going to be when something happens to you. Ask yourself, who's going to be taking care of you? Who's going to be handling the things that you handle? Who's going to be stepping in for you if you die? And I don't mean to be melodramatic, but you need to think about these things, because I know you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I know you're waking up thinking about this. If it doesn't concern you, if you're a couple 100 pounds overweight and it doesn't concern you, it will one day. You just haven't gotten there. I was there. I was waking up wondering why I couldn't beat it, why I could be successful in other areas of my life and I could get my butt kicked by a fork, a piece of food on a fork, or whatever you want to say, another bite of food. So, be encouraged. You can get the weight off. if this resonates with you, or you know somebody that needs some help, share this video with them. I put it on my Transform My Future business page. I have rethinkdieting.com. You can go there, watch a free masterclass, or you can book a call with me. If you're stuck and need some help, go to www.transformmyfuture.com/apply, and it's in the notes on here in the heading. And be encouraged. If I can do it, you can do it. If the men that are going through my program can do it, you can do it. So don't give up. There is hope for it, but don't settle. Don't settle for where you're at, really, because there's a lot of people it's going to affect, not just you. So you guys have a great night. We'll see you on day number 52.